This podcast is not for you. It's for me. It's a place for me to embrace my story without feeling like I am shilling for Instagram about if I look better or if I've had a bad week or a good week. This podcast is my process and my processing. And if it helps you, great. I'd love to hear about it. But if it's not your journey, you can leave. Or if you want to just bear witness, you can stay. That's fine too. This is my journey, so beware that it's going to be very raw. Welcome to the Anonymous John podcast. 11th of May, 2023. It's been a month since April 11th, 2023. When I think first got really serious about my health. I feel like my awareness of my health has grown over the years, but I really never concentrated on it. It was like an afterthought. It was something that needed to be addressed, but was not pressing because I was like functioning. I was like a functioning alcoholic, but being overweight. I was a functioning overweight person. And I always found a way to hide, cope my way through my life. And that was good enough. Always seemed to be, at least. And you'd almost have like this kind of pride issue thing that would kind of go on, and where you'd be like, you know what, I can just make it through, even though I'm carrying 200-300 more pounds than everybody else. I can still keep up. I'm strong enough. I'm tough enough. But then there's like this breaking point, and when you hit that, it's like hitting like a wall, and you start to decline. Your body finally just goes, no, it's just enough. I hit that point right around 600 pounds. And if I'm really honest, there's probably some other times in there where that was happening. Because the thing that you don't think about and that you don't focus on is that you are affecting other people's lives around you. But then you get to this point where when your body starts shutting down, now you start getting to really see how much it's going to affect those people around you. For me, it was seeing my wife starting to have to do things that I could no longer do. Things like crawling up on a roof to fix something. To maybe it was carrying in some heavy equipment or multiple trips in for groceries. Maybe it was just the fact that it was really hard for me to sometimes roll out of bed or getting up, and I'd be like, hey, can someone grab that and toss it to me? And it doesn't sound like much to begin with, but over time it becomes this kind of pattern of rock-like behavior. And I've had several wake-up calls, and my lifestyles have changed over time. There was this one point when I turned 33. I'd had too many Red Bulls. I had like 4 20-ounce Red Bulls that day. And I also had some alcohol, and at like 3 a.m. in the morning, I woke up and I thought I was having a heart attack. And I rush out and wake up my wife, and we run to the emergency room, and they look me over and they're like, no, you're not having a heart attack. And I go through the process of checking with doctors and all this kind of other kind of things, and it turns out that I'm just having a panic attack. But this wasn't the only time, right, that I ended up having these moments where maybe my blood pressure went up high. And so I started having a panic attack from it because I thought that I was in imminent danger, that I was going to die. So sometimes you would take this stuff and I would be like, well, I guess it's not really a physical issue because all my blood work and my cholesterol levels and everything else is turning out okay. And even my blood pressure isn't that high. So it's just a mental issue. And so I'd be like, well, it's not really a physical issue. Again, it's that kind of that circle back to pride. So I would eventually be like, all right, you know what? I'm going to be fine. But I would make like I'm going to be fine, and I was going to continue on my life, not realizing that I was in a steady decline. But when I did have like some lifestyle changes, like I cut out all sugar, and I started to become more aware. It was like kind of like waking up slowly, and I dropped my weight little by little to like 585, all the way down to like 515 in the summer of 2022 when I was in Finland, and I was able to swim every day because my parent-in-laws live right near a lake. And I found that I had a whole lot of fear when it came to trying to have a healthy lifestyle. Fear of overexertion that would cause a heart attack. And it became debilitating in a lot of ways. As debilitating as the threat of a heart attack from obesity itself. But then there was this one night, April 11th, that kind of changed everything. I felt in my soul that I had been given a clear warning. And I'm not a big woo-woo person, but this is how I felt, right? I had eaten an exorbitant amount of Whataburger that day. I'd had 1 patty melt, 2 sweet and spicy bacon burgers. Now that was all I'd had for the day, but I ate that all at once late at night. And at 1 a.m., I woke up from having just a crazy, vivid dream. Some people would say that it was that dream was caused by overeating late at night, which to their credit might be true. But I choose to remember the extreme anxiety that I had and the fear that it left inside me. In my dream, I was hanging out with a group of friends. We needed some old props for a shoot that we were doing, and I looked over, and near us was this old cemetery where most of my family is buried. And there in the middle of the cemetery sat like this large crypt filled with the belongings of my dead ancestors, and including my recently passed away grandfather. I took my friends inside, and there I found a group of wigs that belonged to my family members who had passed away, and I picked them up and I started walking out the door. And when I did, my heart began to just absolutely race. And it was as if I had disrespected the privilege I had by going there and using these items for people that did not matter, for a project that had no consequences. I immediately knew, without a shadow of a doubt, that I had done something incredibly wrong. And I put back the wig and the props, and I woke up, and my heart rate was racing at around 120 beats per minute. And I tried as I might, I could not get my heart rate to go down past 110. I knew then that I felt then that I had been given a warning that the life that I had inherited from my family was being wasted. And at 3:51 a.m. on April the 12th, I wrote my wife a list of things that I needed to change, and I texted them to her. It included a commitment to not drink any diet sodas of any kind. Sparkling water was okay, but only on the weekends, and always unsweetened. It was my commitment to smaller meals, no large meals or super fatty meals that were going to hurt me. It was a commitment to walking or exercising. First, 5 minutes, 1 to 3 times a day, to starting to move 10 to 40 minutes, 1 to 3 times a day, to like in an 8-week span, to like really kind of getting up and going at all times and keeping my heart rate in that sweet zone of like 120 to 150. It was also a commitment to getting up and standing once every 30 to 40 minutes and moving once at least every 20. It was as silly as it sounds, a commitment to brush my teeth 3 times a day instead of only once, and to drink 1 gallon of water a day, and include electrolytes in my life. Those are some pretty radical, full-on changes for me. And the next day I got up, and even though I was completely scared to death and I just had this panic attack that night over my weight, I got up and I walked. My heart was still pounding in my chest, and I walked probably all of 30 yards, and my heart rate was well over 150. And I walked back to the swing underneath the porch and sat down and just felt horrible. The next day I went again, and this time I walked all the way down to the telephone pole that sat kind of halfway to our gate. And again, my heart rate was in my ears. And I kept doing this for the next week, and I walked there and I walked back. And on the 7th day, I walked to the gate, and it was a total of 0.63 miles. From there, I was able to increase that amount till I was walking 1 mile. And I would have my wife follow me the last bit of the mile just to make sure I did not get too exhausted, or if I started to have trouble, I could stop and there would be something there to help me. I found that I enjoyed pushing myself, and that I needed my wife's support to make it worthwhile, because on the last part of the mile, I needed something to look forward to. I finally got to see the fruits of my labor when Heidi and I went to Dallas on May 4th. I had just been to Dallas a month and a half prior, and the difference was literally night and day. When I had been to Dallas previously, I was there for my cousin's wedding, and it was difficult for me to stand more than 10 minutes without finding something to lean on or a place to sit. But for this trip, I was able to stand with a group of businessmen for almost an hour talking. Now, I'm not saying it was easy, because it wasn't. I was sweating up a flipping storm, but I was doing it. My legs weren't swollen after the 5-hour trip to Dallas. I had energy. I did not feel like sitting in my room in the hotel the entire time. And when a friend and I went to the movies, I was not out of breath walking to the vehicle. I took the stairs to the 5th floor of our hotel willingly, because I wanted to challenge myself. Now, I will say that may have been my overconfidence, because by the time I got to the 5th floor, my legs were like jelly, and I slid down the hallway after exiting the stairwell and sat on the floor just trying to catch my breath, and called my wife and told her where the room was. But eating was also a really big deal this time. I ordered what I wanted, but only ate what I needed. restraint was the order of the game, and I found myself not overeating and enjoying my food so much more. I even ordered a slice of pecan pie and then only had 3 small bites and was completely satisfied. The thing that was running through my head was, are any of the other bites that I'm thinking about having going to be any better than the bites that I've had? And the answer was no. And since they weren't going to be any better, I was okay with stopping. My current eating plan is intermittent fasting of 1 meal a day, eaten between 10 a.m. and 12 p.m., Monday through Friday, and 2 full days of fasting, Saturday and Sunday. And I'm going to let people know how it goes. So, wish me luck.